The last thing Maruti needed was another hatchback. But, lo and behold, it's brought out the Ignis. It's a car that Maruti believes will strike a chord with young buyers looking for something out of the ordinary. To be successful, the Ignis primarily has to do just that. It has to look, feel and drive distinct to the horde of other Marutis on our roads, and also edge past the competition that comes from the likes of the Mahindra KUV 100 and Hyundai Grand i10, in the areas that matter. Mahindra may market the KUV as an SUV, but at its core, this is a hatchback, with a monocoque body, front-wheel drive and all. Like the Ignis, the KUV also relies heavily on its design to distinguish it from the other hatchbacks on sale. The Grand i10 is the oldest car here, but it's fresh from an update and is all the better for it. That the Grand i10 is a constant entry in the list of India's best-selling cars also makes it the model to beat. For this comparison, we've considered diesel versions to include the updated 1.2-litre motor in the Grand i10. As always, all parameters will get due attention and weightage while deciding the final standings. The shape of things. If you like your car to be conventional in shape and design, the Ignis and KUV 100 might not catch your fancy. Both sport pseudo-crossover designs and invite the same love it or hate it reactions as the Hyundai Santro, the original tall boy, once did. The Ignis look is a clear break from the Maruti, or Suzuki, template, and in a way, that's what also makes it special. This isn't your everyday family Maruti, but one that makes a statement with the way it looks. Frontal styling is smart, and what's particularly nice is how this top-spec alpha trim car's LED DRLs outline the headlights on the large grille. Adding to the cool quotient are this alpha trim Ignis first-in-class LED headlights. They provide excellent illumination at night, but also promise to be expensive bits to replace, if damaged. Wide wheel arches, blacked-out A-pillars and black alloy wheels give the Ignis some personality, but it's after the B-pillar that opinions on the small Marutis look vary most. Some of us find the chunky C-pillar, replete with those Adidas stripes, to add muscle to the design, while others find it out of place on a car this small. Rear styling is more polarizing still. The rake of the windscreen, upright tailgate, shape of the tail lights and large slab of plastic cladding on the bumper make the Ignis behind look, well, different. Good different or bad different is a matter of personal opinion. However, the Ignis 175/65 R15 tires appear narrow, especially when viewed from the tail. You'll have to use a bit of imagination with respect to the KUV 100 pictured here. Mahindra categorically refused to provide us a car for this comparison. They possibly knew what the verdict of this test would be before we did, so we had to make do with a base spec version we managed to source from the market. In essence, top spec KUV 100s get more chrome detailing, body-colored mirrors and door handles, some cladding on the doors and wheel arches and, of course, alloy wheels. Of late, Mahindra has upsized the alloy wheel size on the top K8 KUV from 14 to 15 inches and has also introduced dual-tone, basically black roof and pillars, paint schemes. We've seen the car in question in the flesh, and the larger wheels have helped the KUV 100's looks to some extent. Still, styling is overdone with undue cuts and creases, and there's a visible lack of design harmony between the SUV-like front end and hatchback-like tail. It is eye-catching, just not necessarily for the right reasons. The KUV is the shortest car here in length but is the tallest and widest, which only serves to emphasize its oddball proportions. In the company of the Ignis and KUV 100, the Grand i10's design almost comes across as too safe. It's got the most conventional silhouette. But is that a bad thing? Not really. There's a nice balance to the design and the restrained lines work well. Part of the recent facelift is a reshaped grille and L-shaped fog lamp surrounds on the front bumper that is not only home to the new LED DRLs but, as per Hyundai's claims, also help improve aerodynamics. The smart alloy wheel design is new too, and completing the makeover is the revised rear bumper. While the latter's black cladding and large round reflectors do look slightly out of sync with the rest of the car's styling, they won't be deal breakers like certain visual elements on the Ignis and KUV. Inside lines, open these cars' doors and you'll find the Ignis is unique on the inside too. The KUV's cabin is unexpectedly restrained in styling, and see, there's more of the neat and clean look in the Grand i10. The Ignis cabin is chic and, again, looks unlike any other Maruti's. The upright dash with its high-set floating touchscreen, the use of toggle switches for the distinctive climate control pod and the body-colored panels on the base of the center console and door handles, all come together really well. But even if it may not look it, this still feels like a Maruti cabin. Quality levels are good but not great, and existing Maruti owners are sure to notice familiar bits like the power window switches that have their roots in the first-gen Swift. Just wish the Ignis also borrowed the bale nose color multi-info display in the instrument's binnacle. The older school dot matrix display looks out of place in the otherwise modern-looking cabin. The front seats could have been a tad firmer too, but they are well contoured and hold occupants well. While on the topic of front seats, there's a lot to talk about the KUV. You see, Mahindra sells the KUV in 5 and 6-seat versions. The former features 2 individual chairs up front, while the latter uses a front bench seat arrangement. Sure, it's possible to sit 3 abreast on the bench seat, but middle passengers get limited legroom, and there's the bigger concern about safety. Would you want to be seated so close to the gear lever? Were it up to us, we'd opt for the conventional 5-seat layout whose shapelier front seats offer superior comfort too. Whatever be the seating configuration, you sit high up and get a good view out, though some might find the bowed dashboard that rises at the center hampers visibility to some extent. The dash is smart in design and thankfully free from the overdone stylistic flourishes of the exteriors. What is unique is the positioning of the gear lever and handbrake on the center console itself, done so to make space for the front middle seat. While the gear lever falls easily to hand and is really nice to use, the pull-type handbrake is cumbersome to operate and simply feels outdated. Also, not doing the KUV any favors is the small monochrome infotainment display. Quality levels are a mixed bag too. The textured finish on the dash top feels rich, but the plastics lower down aren't quite as nice. Before getting into the comfort features these cars come with, it's essential to talk safety first. Maruti is commendably the most generous in this department with dual airbags, anti-lock brakes and ISOFIX child seat mounts offered as standard across the range. In comparison, all versions of the KUV 100 get ABS, while only the top-spec K8 gets front airbags and ISOFIX seat mounts as standard. At least, Mahindra offers dual airbags as part of ours 22,000+ package on lower trims. Hyundai doesn't give similar flexibility to buyers. Base Grand i10s get a driver side airbag, and mid-spec sports trim upwards there's one for the front passenger too. But what's really disappointing is that ABS is reserved only for the top-specester version of the car. Of the other features of note, alloy wheels, daytime running lights, rear wiper and defogger, reverse sensors, tilt adjust for the steering and steering-mounted audio controls are common to the top-spec versions of all 3 cars. The KUV stands out by offering auto start-stop, aka micro-hybrid tech, and selectable drive modes, but it is also the only one here without auto climate control, a reverse camera and a touchscreen infotainment system. The Ignis and Grand i10's touchscreen units handily come bundled with sat-nav, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but where the Maruti screen is better in terms of readability, the Hyundai's unit is more responsive to touch inputs. Also, as mentioned, the Grand i10 is the only car here with a rear air con vent. If you've driven one diesel Maruti, you've driven them all. The Ignis carries forward the key traits of the engine it hosts. That is to say, there's a distinct clatter at idle, noise levels are high through much of the rev range, It's the loudest at max revs, and power only comes in earnest at about 2000 revolutions per minute when the turbo wakes up. There is a healthy dose of power between 2000 to 4000 revolutions per minute, but the engine doesn't provide the same top-end zing on the Ignis as it does on a Swift and Swift Desire, and that's a bit of a downer. In the lower half of the rev range, you'll also note the marked difference in performance on and off turbo boost. The numbers reflect the same. For instance, the Ignis is the quickest car from 2080 kph in third gear, but without sufficient assistance from the turbo, it is also the slowest from 3050 kph in third. Diametrically opposite in character is the KUV 100's engine. There's minimal turbo lag and the engine pulls well from about 1500 revolutions per minute, but there's also no step up in power at any point. This is not an engine that rewards you for revving it hard, rather it's one that works best on small throttle inputs and early upshifts. In that sense, the KUV 100 works well in urban settings. Adding to the experience is the joystick-like gear lever that offers slick and precise shifts. If only the clutch was a bit more progressive. Top-spec KUV diesels also get an efficiency-enhancing eco-driving mode. Performance takes a big hit, but in rush hour traffic where speeds are low, the eco mode provides a clever way of saving fuel. Whatever mode you may be in, though, there's no escaping the thrummy 3-cylinder engine's relatively high noise levels. The KUV has the loudest idle, albeit it's the quietest at max revs at a standstill, and is also the noisiest at 50 kph in fourth gear and 80 kph in fifth gear. It's the Grand i10's engine that is the quietest in most scenarios, but overall refinement has some low points too. The 3-cylinder engine doesn't sound great, and, at idle, you can feel vibrations at the steering, pedals and gear lever. Things do smoothen out rather well as you get moving, and it's on the move you'll experience how much of an improvement the new engine is over the older one, which is largely thanks to the remapping of the ECU. As before, there's no turbo lag to speak of, and power delivery is linear as ever, and real-world performance is vastly better than the old cars. Just have a look at the improvement in gear times. 2080 kph in third gear takes 11.60 seconds compared to the earlier car's time of 14.24 seconds, and 4100 kph in fourth gear is also down to 13.75 seconds, the quickest here, from the leisurely 17.23 seconds it took the older car. The power band is wider than before too, but the best approach is to upshift early and make the most of the engine's easygoing nature. The light clutch and smooth gearbox add greatly to the ease of use. Hyundai claims the revised Grand i10 diesel is more fuel efficient too, and it is. The Grand i10 delivered 16.2 kpl in town and 20.2 kpl on the highway, up 0.8 kpl and 0.6 kpl on the old car, respectively. The Ignis 20.4 kpl figure makes it marginally more efficient on the highway, though in town economy is a lower 15 kpl, perhaps reflecting the need to work the gears more. In the same city and highway cycles, the relatively heavy KUV managed 13 kpl and 17.3 kpl. Rock and roll. These cars stick to the proven front McPherson struts and a rear torsion bar formula for their suspensions. The Ignis feels relatively stiffly sprung though, and you can feel, and hear, the car go over surface imperfections at city speeds. However, thanks to the firm setup, the Ignis also feels fairly sure-footed at highway speeds and doesn't move around as much as its rivals. Just don't expect the Ignis to drive like a Swift. Its light steering feels inert with some slack around the straight-ahead position, and, frankly, it doesn't feel as playful from behind the wheel as its looks and youthful persona would suggest. If you have a large family and are comfortable with the idea of the front bench seat, the 6-seat KUV 100 should interest you. We aren't fans of the way it looks, but there's no denying the Mahindra is a different take on the family hatchback. It also makes for a reasonably nice city car with decent performance in town and pleasant enough ride quality. However, The KUV isn't as refined as it ought to be and also misses out on many features. The KUV 100 does have the lowest asking price of Rs 7.21 lakh, ex-showroom, Delhi, but its lower fuel economy also points to higher running costs. The Ignis, on the other hand, scores well on fuel economy like any Maruti should, but is also uncharacteristically expensive. Sure, the top Ignis gets a lot of goodies and you get a superior buying experience at Maruti's upscale Nexa dealerships which sell the car, but Rs 7.8 lakh is just too much money for it. What is also a bit of a disappointment is that, despite its unique exteriors and interiors, the Ignis doesn't feel a world apart from the other Marutis on sale. A part of the blame goes to the loud and clattery 1.3 diesel that simply feels at odds with the otherwise modern Ignis. And this leaves us with the grand i10 that comes across as the most wholesome and sensible buy of this trio. With the recent update, Hyundai has built upon a good car and made it better still. Performance is greatly improved, ride quality is nicer and there are more features on offer as well. The Grand i10 isn't perfect, but for the justifiable Rs 7.36 lakh Hyundai wants for the top-spec diesel, you will readily overlook the few weaknesses for what the rest of the package gets you. Over 10,000 buyers have been putting their money down on the Grand i10 each month. And by the look of things, that number could go up.